Our minds belong to God, and we should be devoting our minds to God and giving them and choosing to give them to God every single day. And that does take work, especially if some of these thoughts are old, deep-seated roots that came from people you know, love, and trust. Hey guys, welcome back to my page, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made. I am Mia, and today we are going to be finishing our backpack little mini series in the Boundary series. So if you haven't watched the first two videos, essentially our backpack is our responsibility. So we are using this to symbolize what things are in our knapsack that we are expected to carry. So I would definitely recommend checking out the last two videos. In the first video, we went over our attitudes and beliefs as well as our feelings. Those are both in our backpack. And then in the second video, we went over our choices, we went over our behaviors, we went over our values, as well as our limits on ourselves and on others. These are all also in our own knapsack. So in this video, we're gonna go over the last four things that we're gonna put in our backpack. First up is our resources and gifts. So this is gonna be the first thing in this video that we put into our backpack. And essentially, if you guys haven't already seen my New Year's Eve vlog, I did do a church notes recap in that video where my pastor was sharing about Matthew 25, where Jesus is sharing the parable about the talents. That video, I think, does a really great job on discussing some of the biblical principles of stewarding our talents well. It's in that chapter, Matthew 25, verse 23, where it says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness." Essentially, just to sum up what I shared in the other vlog, is that in this parable, Jesus is expressing to us that it is our responsibility to steward well the talents that God has given us. And in this parable, the sin committed was laziness. Now, if you're anything like me, I definitely struggle with idleness and being lazy sometimes, watching too much Netflix, scrolling all on TikTok, Instagram until all hours of the night. And it's crazy because God doesn't desire us to be idle. God doesn't desire for us to be lazy. He desires for us to use our resources and our gifts for the glory of God and the edification of ourselves and those around us. With that being said, it is going to take work. It's going to take practicing, learning, stretching, prayer, and ultimately the grace of God to overcome the fear of failure. God does not give us a spirit of fear. So whatever it is that God has blessed you, whatever talents and gifts that God has given you, use them. If you're chasing that promotion, go get it. If you are wanting to switch careers and you feel like what you're doing would be better served doing something else, if you feel like God is calling you out of a place, do that. Listen to Him. But even more, I would say that we so quickly resonate with growing and using our talents and resources when it comes to a monetary situation. However, how much more should we be utilizing our talents and resources in our marriages, in our friendships, in our church, in our families? We should be utilizing our resources, our gifts, our talents to steward well those that God has put around us. And that includes ourselves. That includes edifying ourselves. Thoughts are the next item that we are going to be putting into our backpack. Now, In the last video, I did a whole section at the end on how to get rid of your old self and put on your new self. And that did include washing your thoughts in the word, in the truth of God, and allowing that to strengthen your inner character. Because ultimately, we are called to love God with all our hearts and all our souls and all our minds. There are 4 parts for establishing healthy boundaries. The first is that we must own our own thoughts. What I mean by that is ask yourself, where is this thought coming from? Why am I thinking the way that I think? You are responsible for the thoughts that you have. And ultimately, you may be at a point in life where the thoughts that are coming into your head are now not even something you're like doing purposely. It just happens. It's mechanical, they're natural, it's something that you've learned, they're generational thoughts. Maybe this is a thought that is a seed that was planted by your parents, by your teachers. Maybe it was something that your older sibling told you when you were in the 7th grade and you've held on to that for your entire life. I mean, if you ask someone, what was the nastiest thing that someone has ever said to you in your life? Most of us are able to quickly recall a seed that was planted in us and deposited in our soul so quickly. But we can also think, what was the best thing? What was the nicest thing someone has ever said to you? Now, it might not be as quick for us to get the answer to that one, but there are things, seeds that have been planted in us that are positive and that are negative. So what I'm not saying is we should just dismiss all the thoughts that other people like say or other people's opinions we should just whatever with. We should weigh other people's thoughts as well as our own thoughts to the truth and the word of God. We should not be giving our minds over to people so freely and so easily. Secondly, we need to grow. We need to grow and expand our minds. We should be expanding our knowledge of God on a daily and consistent basis. First priority should be knowing Him well, knowing His word. We can also do that by looking to creation. And I did a whole mini series in this boundary series on God-made boundaries, where we did look to things like our skin to see where God is establishing boundaries. And it's in His character, it's in His design of creation where we can see these things appearing and we can learn from them and expand our minds in this knowledge. Whether you're a brain surgeon, you're fighting fires, you're raising children, every day, all of us need to be growing and expanding our knowledge and wisdom. With that being said, we also need to clarify any distorted thinking. Distorted thinking could be many things, but one of the easiest examples of distorted thinking is when it comes to interpersonal relationships and the way that we see people that we love or that are close to us, because most often the way that we perceive people is based on past relationships, it's based on what society says, it's based on what we think that people should be doing, or it's based on a preconception that we have about who they are. You might be looking at someone with rose-colored glasses and looking past all of their transgressions and not noticing any red flags because we're just blindly in love. Or on the other side, we might be looking at people with anger and bitterness and nothing they do is right. Or, better option, we can choose to look at all things through the lens and perspective of the Word of God. The way that we view people, the way that we think is ultimately our own responsibility. And that means that it's on us to either take off the rose-colored glasses or take off the critical eye and to start seeing things the way that God sees them. If that's a struggle for you, pray Ask God to reveal to you the things that He sees the way that He sees them, and to help change your heart and to grow and to change your mind. Assessing where we are wrong is hard. The process of changing our thoughts is a long and tumultuous one. It is something that you have to consistently do every single day. We need to have the ability to adapt and to grow and to take on new information and to let out old and bad information. Lastly, we must communicate our needs to others. No one is a mind reader. So the days of he should just know, it's common sense, those days are gone. All that leads to is frustration, because literally no one is a mind reader, and if you want something, it's your job to tell someone else that you want it. The next item in our backpack is our desires. Most of the time, our desires are hyper me focused. I want this, I like that, I'm interested in this, I don't want that. And that's essentially how we assess what we desire. Whereas the Bible is so clear that we should be going to God and asking Him to fill our hearts with the desires that He wants us to have. So we can look to the Psalms where it says, "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. He fulfills the desires of those who fear Him." If we have a genuine awe and reverence and fear of God, our desires will not be in alignment with our flesh, rather in alignment with God. And so often when we are struggling and in the middle of situations, it's like, well, God, why aren't you answering my prayers? Why aren't you giving me X, Y, and Z? You said you would give me all the desires of my heart. But the thing is, God is a wise parent. What kind of father would He be if He was like, sure, you want breakfast, lunch, and dinner to be ice cream? Let's do that. Then we would be looking to Him saying, He's not a good father, and that's just not true. Now, the last thing that we are going to put into our backpack is love. Contrary to popular belief, love is not a feeling. Love is a gift from God. The ability to give and receive love is a gift from God. And many of us do find it difficult to express love or to receive love because of past hurts and fear, and that is not from God. Our spiritual heart, just like our physical heart, needs an inflow and an outflow of love in order to function properly. We need to be giving and receiving love. And if that's something that is a struggle right now, that's okay, because just like our heart, it's a muscle that can be worked out, that can be trained, and that can be grown. Love concealed and love rejected can kill us. And it may be hard to see when you're in the middle of a rough situation, when you just got out of a rough situation and you're just down in the dirt, you're all walled up in the middle of your storm. It may be so hard to feel like love can get in, and that is when the encouragement is to chase Jesus. When your eyes are fixed on Him, the storm is irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because God already seen you through something. And our God is bigger than any and every storm. Focus on Jesus. What does that look like? That looks like prayer. That looks like reading the Word. That looks like being in community. That looks like being at church. And it's not just religious activity. It is having a relationship with Jesus, allowing Him to be your strength in a storm, to look at all the miracles that are happening and not to train your eyes on all of the things that are going wrong. Love is your responsibility. God gave us the gift of love, and it is our responsibility to open ourselves up to receiving and giving that love on a consistent and daily basis. So my challenge for you guys is to get a hold of your backpack. All of the things that we've gone over in the past 3 videos, go over them, watch back the videos, start learning what's your responsibility, start working out what's your responsibility. Ultimately, boundaries is hard work. Like, this is not just a walk in the park. So pick 1, 2, 3, or 10 things that we just put in our backpack that are our responsibility. Go through them and think, maybe what are you struggling with the most? But with all of that being said, if you guys made it this far in the video, make sure to drop down below and share a backpack emoji. But if you like this video and you like the boundary series, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to my page if you haven't already. Make sure your notifications are on so you know as soon as my next video is up and available to listen to. But until then, be blessed, and I'll see you guys next time.